Patty. Let me get my. Am I good? Am I mic'd? Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, so I'm Brandon. I do a lot of different things. I'm a PhD student. I do consulting for internet startups. And lately I've been working at an indie game studio called Minicore Studios in Austin. And then I also started my own indie game studio called Hot Trouble with my friends. And so that's what this talk is about how you should start an indie game studio and make video games with your friends, and you should do it immediately. Like, you should leave here and go like start on your games. And that may sound crazy, but I'm gonna walk you through it, and you're all gonna be really excited. We're gonna make some video games. It's gonna be rad. So first I wanna tell you about Hot Trouble Studios, my game studio. So it's me, and it's my friend Corey, and then her friend Celine has done some voice acting stuff for us. And this is going to be like the narrative of why I started a game studio and why we went out of business. So you can kind of see where I'm coming. You can see that I'm an expert. I'm authority on game studios, so that you will believe the things that I say. So here's kind of like a timeline, right, of all of the different things that happen that caused me to start an indie game studio. So it all started at Nerd Night / Dorkbot, which is a thing that Dustin runs in Austin. It's actually all over the world, but the Austin one's like a particularly good one. And it's like people coming together to do fun things with electricity or whatever. And so I was just kind of there. I was chilling, I was talking to Dustin, and this guy Wiley Wiggins came up. You might know him. He was in Dazed and Confused. He does a lot of stuff now, a lot of like creative stuff in Austin. And he recently started this website with this guy Brandon Boyer called Venus Patrol. It was a really cool project. What they did was they did a Kickstarter. It's a new website in search of beautiful things from the world of video games for you. So Brandon Boyer used to run this thing called Offworld that was like a offshoot of Boing Boing for like video games, and he wanted to do like a site that's just about indie games, about games as art, about all of the cool things that you don't know about. And so he did a Kickstarter, and they raised all of this money, and then they built this beautiful website. And Brandon personally blogs like 30 times a day about everything happening in the indie video game world. And it's this great model where the website's free, but you can subscribe to the website. And what you get if you subscribe is nothing having to do with website. What you get is all of the greatest like indie video game creators in the world have made special little things that only subscribers of the website get. Like does anybody play Minecraft in here? No? Yeah, we got a few Minecraft people. All right, cool. So, I forgot who it was. The guy that did, I think it's the guy that did Katamari Damacy made some custom Minecraft skins. Stuff like that, just crazy stuff, all the great games there. And so you get all these stuff, some of the greatest game companies like Vlambeer made a game that you can only get if you're a member of Venus Patrol. So anyway, I was hanging out at Dorkbot. Wiley Wiggins is there, Brandon Boyer's there, and they're like, hey, did you hear about the Adventure Time Game Jam? And I'm all like, what is this? So does anybody know Adventure Time? No? Yes? The cartoon? Yeah, the cartoon, yeah. All right, one guy knows all about Adventure Time. All right, yeah, kids, right? So Adventure Time is this like crazy cartoon by this guy Pendleton Ward, and it's like popular among adults as well. So it's not weird. It's not weird that I like Adventure Time, but it's got a lot of stuff in there for adults. There's like some, it's complex. It's a complex cartoon, but they had actually gotten Cartoon Network to license them the rights to Adventure Time IP and the idea was that they were going to make Adventure Time video games in this thing that's called a game jam. So let me see if I have a slide for this. Right, yes. So this is Adventure Time, right? So you guys might recognize some of this art. This is actually fan art of Adventure Time, so it's totally cool that I'm using it. So anyway, so a game jam is this thing where it's like for 48 hours you get together and you make a video game start to finish. And to make sure that you don't do anything on the game before you get there is they have a secret thing you have to include in the game that you don't know what it is. And then when the rule drops and everyone's all like, go, go, go. And they actually had, this is it was global, but they had this like old yoga studio that had gone out of business that they transformed into like a game jam space for the 48 hours. So if you were in Austin, you could go there, and they had just like power strips and Ethernet cables and pizza and beer and just like tables, and everyone's just getting crazy. And they're just like staying up all night, and people brought in like whiteboards, and somebody brought in a full Mac desktop setup, like this was like this big, like 2 monitor setup, and was just like, just like hacking away. And I was all like, respect, man, I was like, I got my laptop, but you were like, no, I'm serious. I need my ergonomic mouse, I gotta work, And so we went and we did it. It was just, it was me and Corey and her friend Celine, and we did it start to finish in 48 hours. I did the programming, Corey did all the art, Celine did all the voice acting, and so we made a game. And this is our game. It's called Lumpy Space Chess, which is named after the Lumpy Space Princess as a character. And so it's kind of like chess. There's all these different characters. You get treasure, and then you can use it to buy different characters. So it's kind of more like a strategy game. Like you got to get the good characters that have the good moves, and then you're trying to capture their king. Like there's the king, for instance. And so yeah, so we did this game in 48 hours, and it was a really good experience. Because, I love video games. I play a lot of video games. I feel, and I think all gamers feel this way, that I have taste when it comes to video games. I have a perspective, it's like, I know the good games, I know the bad games, I know what's cool, And so I really got to express my perspective. Like, I like turn-based games, I like hexagons a lot. All of my games have hexagons in them. And so this is cool because like Corey did all this art. This is all custom art. This is all fan art. It was just like she did. She sang the theme song. She composed an original rap about Adventure Time that you get if you're here on the end credits. We made the soundtrack for when you're actually playing the game. We made on my phone with this like app called Can of Beats that like generates random beats. And we just kept hitting like next until we found like a good beat, and we're all like, cool, MP3 that. Put that in GitHub. Let's do that. Let's put that in the game, So, it was a good experience. And so the winning team was actually like a game company, my favorite game company, Vlambeer. They made Super Crate Box and Dinosaur Zookeeper and other games like that. This is them when they won. What did they win? Oh, only a handmade crossbow made by Richard Garriott, the creator of Ultima, who was all like, hey, I like you guys. Here's this crossbow. He's very shy. That's them just freaking out because they're super excited. How old are these guys? These guys are like 12. I don't know. But not only that, but they got Pendleton Ward, the creator of Adventure Time, signed them up for a Fruit of the Month club. They get fruit in their mailbox every month for a year. It's cool. So we were so excited by this. Like, for instance, and these Vlambeer kids were so cool. I didn't know that they were from Vlambeer, my favorite indie game company, so I didn't fanboy out on them, which was good because it would have been real embarrassing. But like I came in, they were the first people there because they had flown in for the thing, and there was no chairs or tables or anything in the room yet. They were just sitting there. There was one Ethernet cable. They had it plugged into their laptop. What were they doing? They had plugged in some Xbox controllers. They were playing some game I never heard of. It's called Infinite SWAT. It was from another game jam, and they were just playing video games because that's what they do. That's how they live. We were so inspired by this. We said, okay, we could do this. We were hanging out with the Vlambeer kids, We could be like Vlambeer. We're gonna study, and we're gonna start our own game studio. So I checked out all of the great indie game studios, and I noticed something surprising. So Vlambeer, I had not heard about until they came out with Super Crate Box, which you should get immediately on Steam or whatever. It's on iPad, whatever. It's so good. They had 10 games that I had never heard of before their one game came out that like made them blow up, that everybody's heard of in the indie game community. And I said, all right, this is our plan. We're gonna make 10 games that nobody's ever heard of. Guaranteed success, right? That's what we're gonna do. And we already had one game. We had Lumpy Space Chess. So I'm like, we're gonna make one game a month for 10 months, and then we're gonna come out with a game that is gonna, everyone's gonna be super excited about. This is my whole plan for success, right? And this is really following Dustin's thing of viral success through believing in stuff and just trying really hard. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna like really believe in ourselves. So what happened was we didn't win because the Vlambeer kids won, but we were in Wired. Seriously, you guys. They said they went through, there were 700 people participated in the game jam. they produced 100 games in 48 hours. 100 games all about Adventure Time. Every game was totally a unique, perfect snowflake, not like any of the other games. It was crazy. I played all of them. I spent several days of my life just playing games from this thing, you know? And so they picked the top 8 coolest games. This is us. And there's this little write-up. Yeah, it's a paragraph. It's a paragraph, but it's a paragraph in Wired, right? If you hear my mom tell people, you'd think I got a cover story, right? So we were pretty excited because we're all like, yeah, that's right, Lumpy Space Chess is pretty good, you know? And so then what happened was, Corey, she's the designer, she put it up on her resume. Here it is, Lumpy Space Chess, among all of her other beautiful websites and infographics, and she used to do print design and stuff. And then what happened, some people in San Francisco called, and they said, what's up, we love your work, why don't you come work in San Francisco? So Corey, who was supposed to give this talk with me, between when we told Joey we would do the talk and now, is in San Francisco now working at some internet startup as their head UI designer. So that's it. So we're over, Corey's gone. But we lasted exactly 1 month. We lasted exactly 1 month, and we stuck true to our vision of doing 1 game per month for the entire lifetime of our company, which was 1 month, right? So we did it. We stuck to our beliefs, you know, and and so next time we're just gonna try to get a little bit more, you know, I don't know, longevity out of it. So Corey, she's in San Francisco for a while. She's gonna come back, and we still have a lot of game ideas, and we're gonna try to still make them. So maybe we'll still be around. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. She was unemployed, and I'm in grad school, so we had a lot of free time. I actually don't have a lot of free time. I have a lot of procrastination time where I can do stuff that's not studying, and so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, so here's my point, which is that you should start a game studio immediately. And you don't have to know anything about programming video games, because we sure didn't know anything about programming video games. I had done some work at like indie game studio this summer, but mainly we just like have played a lot of video games. And I think that's the key, because you have to have a perspective. Because the key to any creative project is, well, what is the project? Like, what's the idea, right? And so if you play a lot of video games, it's really easy to generate that idea, which you're like, okay, what are all the greatest video games, and what do they have in common? And let's make a video game that is slightly cooler than that. Just like one new idea on top of it is all you need. And so I know you're thinking, you're like, oh, but I am not a programmer and or artist, therefore I can't make these games. And no, it's no problem. It's no problem. I'm gonna walk you through it, how that is not necessary anymore. So first of all, we don't need to program anymore to make video games. There's all of these tools out now. Like Game Salad, that's some friends of mine. They started at South by Southwest Accelerator in Austin, and now they're like in San Francisco, and like everybody uses them, and they make commercial games. Game Maker Studio, if you guys use Steam, they've started adding non-games to Steam. They've started adding like game making tools to Steam, and you can get this. There's a free version of Game Maker Studio just right in Steam. Just when you're updating, you know, your Torchlight 2 or your Portal 2 or whatever you guys are playing, just go in there, just click it, just download it, just check it out. You know, if you want to do like the version for like Android or iOS, it's like $200, you know, which I understand. People are like, oh, $0, unacceptable. I can't spend any money on my hobby. All right, fine, it's fine, whatever, you know. Just buy it when you get there, you know. And then there's like Flixel, like for Flash. Some professional game designers who were part of the Game Jam, they use Flixel, which is like a free thing to make Flash games, because they're like, yeah, we could use Unity, we have licenses and all this, and we could like put together a thing, but like, let's just use Flixel, it'll just be so much faster. So like even some of the professional developers like sometimes use these tools to like prototype out stuff. So that's all you need. It's all drag and drop. Like if you guys can use like Word or Photoshop or any kind of software that anyone has ever put on a computer, you can make games, and there's like zero programming involved. So that is not a reason to stop. And now I know what you're thinking. You're like, but I'm not an artist. I don't have any art. Games are made of art. You need sound, and you need, you know, like graphics, and you need all of this art. Well, luckily, because of the Game Jam movement, there's all this art that's available now for people that don't have time to mess around, right? You got 48 hours to make a game. you might not have time to make any art. Like luckily I had Corey, she just like, just turned out that art. It was crazy. But so like Open Game Art, it's the website. People just upload art, it's all Creative Commons licensed, and there's just more and more all the time. You can find something that you like. And then all of the game jams turn out these art assets. Like there's one game jam that they do, actually, it's a two-part one. The first part is they just generate art assets. It's just an artist-only game jam. And then the second one is the programmers take art from that and then they turn it into games. And by programmers, I mean also people that are using Game Maker Studio, right? Would also be the programmers or whatever in this case. And then if you're doing like 8-bit, you know, kind of like Nintendo style, there's this amazing thing that you can just load in your browser right now called BFXR. It's a browser-based thing. It's like a Flash thing. And it just generates sound effects. Like you'll just be like, I need a coin sound. And it'll be like, here's a coin sound. And you're like, no, I don't like it. It's like, here's another coin sound. It uses algorithms and it randomizes them. And you can like try to do all these sliders. And that's all free to use because that's all like generated on the fly by some algorithms, right? So that's all just totally good. I love this. This is the best because like as a programmer, like I don't really have time to mess around with all this stuff. So before I had a designer and a voice actor, I just did all my stuff using open game assets. You know, and it's been great. And there's some commercial games like you guys probably don't know Realm of the Mad God, but that all started with game art from some game jam. And then now they're like super successful and they just got into Steam and stuff, which is for indie games like getting on Steam is like, oh, now we're like the big boys, you know, because we're on Steam and people can download us without having to already know about us. So, you know, you can make legit games this way, you know, just because it's free, you shouldn't undervalue like these free art assets, you know, and then you can always get an artist later, you know. Okay, so. But why now? Why am I saying like right now you guys should all immediately start video games? And it's because things have changed in the gaming industry. It used to be that games were very expensive and they really need a lot of technical skill. Like, so for instance, if you look at like id, right, with like Doom and Wolfenstein, all that sort of stuff, their whole thing was every new game was a new engine which pushed graphics farther than it had ever gone before, right? And you couldn't compete with those guys because they had the best programmers and they had all this math and technology and like they're just really pushing the graphics cards. That's kind of over. Like that wave has crested, right? And now we're looking like the indie game scene is so hot. Like you look at Austin, for instance. Austin, we have these AAA studios come in, you know, like Blizzard, BioWare, everybody, right? They build an Austin office. They have their like LA office and they build an Austin office. They do like one game. It's like some knockoff MMO that's like not that great, and MMOs are kind of dead anyway. Subscription revenues are just falling because there's like the MMO players and they just move from game to game. So like every time a new one comes out, all the other one goes out of business. Except for World of Warcraft. But so, you know, they'll do one game, and then they'll just move everybody back to California. So every single person I know that's a AAA game developer that started in Austin now lives in California because they're just following the flow. But every time I go to any event, there's a new indie game studio. Every single time. You know, we have like in Austin, we have like Dorkbot, we got NerdNet, we got Huegos Rancheros, which is a great event, and it's just more and more indie studios all the time. And this is hot right now. Like the indie games are like making headlines. Like I don't know if you guys have heard of Fez. It's so amazing. It's for Xbox. They had an Xbox exclusive. Spelunky also for Xbox. You know, they had like for a while you would start your Xbox and the front page would just be like Fez, download it. And that's a totally indie game. That's a one person just made the whole vision for that game. And I think the reason that indie games people are really into them right now is because as a single author, you can have a lot of vision, right? Like you can make something that's different than anybody has ever seen before. Whereas the AAAs are kind of, because there's so much money and there's so much risk, they're kind of going in this kind of generic direction where everyone is kind of the same. So anyway, so right now it's cool to make an indie game. And if you make an indie game, they don't have the same expectations that you spent $10 million on programming and art, right? Indie games are all about the theme and the vision and what's cool and not really about the cost. There's also things retro games, right? So it's like now we have a whole generation of people that have played games since they were born, right? And so it's okay to be like, you know what? I want to make a game like the games that I used to play before. Like I want to make a game like Mega Man, right? That's totally legitimate. You can make a game like Mega Man and people will play it, they will buy it, and play it, right? That's a commercially viable idea, is to make a game like the original Mega Man or whatever, any kind of thing, you know, that like people remember, you know, like in the, so these retro games, like this retro style has been coming back. People are making retro style RPGs. They're making like old school, like Final Fantasy I style RPGs, and people are buying these, they're buying them on Steam. It's a very exciting time. And this 8-bit aesthetic, right, goes along with the retro sometimes, which is this pixel art aesthetic, means that you no longer have to do these 3D art, like very complicated models. Like you can just do some pixel art. Anybody can do it. I got pixel art in my games. Some of the ones I made before I met Corey, I would take some of that free art that was like real low resolution, and I would just get in there, and I was like, I need to make some walking animations and stuff. I was getting in there and like turn pixels on and off until it looks kind of okay, and it works. It works. It's like, I'm not saying it looks good because I'm a programmer, it's never gonna look good, but it looks like they're walking, right? And I did that. I didn't have to learn Maya, right? I didn't have to like get like this thousands of dollars that I have to spend on software. Like it's all, you just use free stuff. You can use Microsoft Paint. You can make a game in Microsoft Paint, and if it's a cool game, people will play that game. They don't care. They don't care. I'm not saying that there's no aesthetics to 8-bit art. Like there's some really good pixel artists that are really amazing. I'm not saying that it's like easier necessarily, but it's more accessible. Like the barrier to entry is lower than doing like 3D modeling and stuff like that. So I think that we're in a golden age of video games right now, in terms of there are more games out now that I want to play than there have been like in the past like five or so years, just because you've got very like, you know, unique, original, interesting sort of content coming out. And I think that it's important. I think this is an important thing. I think a lot of people think, games, whatever, you know. Like sometimes people give me a hard time because I play video games. And what I say is like, look, games are art, and anybody that doesn't understand that hasn't played Fez, basically. If you haven't played Fez, you should go buy it. You should buy an Xbox so that you can play Fez. That's how good of a game that it is. You know, games are just art on top of art. You know, the graphics and the sound and the environments and the gameplay and the narrative, it's just, they're art. And art is what creates culture. And culture is what creates the society that we live in, right? And so right now, games are very open to participation. Like you can make a game, and if it's cool, millions of people all over the world will play it, and it can shape like the future of the culture of gaming, right? It's just the barrier to entry is very low, and that's not really true of a lot of things. You know, like for instance, even with the internet, even with YouTube, I feel like film, for instance, is still like, it's kind of hard to break into, right? Because, you know, we're locked into this genre of like feature lengths and things like that. Shorts are very hard to distribute. I guess with YouTube, maybe. It's, you know, it's easier. But, you know, just you got all these entrenched industries, you know, like publishing, film, music. The RIAA has a lockdown on music. It's terrible. But like games right now, it's just wide open. So you just put it on the internet, and if people like it, then they will play it. So I think that if you love games, that you should be a part of the creation of games. You should be part of the game culture and not just play Halo. That's my opinion. So, all right, so how to get involved with this community. So game jams. There are game jams like every day. There are game jams all of the time. I wish I had time to go to participate in all of the game jams, but I just can't dedicate every single weekend to writing a game. I wish I could. I want to restructure my life so that I can, because I think I'd have a better life. So there's the Global Game Jam, is an internet game jam. So Global Game Jam, like that's everywhere. That's like everybody on the internet just does it. Ludum Dare is a big one. If you know Notch from Minecraft, people are always mad at him because he stops working on Minecraft to go do Ludum Dare all the time. And like for 40 hours, you'd be like, Matt, Notch, fix Minecraft. It's crashing. And he's like, no. I got to write another game right now for 48 hours. So that's a very popular one. This one, Ludum Dare is cool because they have like weird things. Like the last one they did was a month-long game jam, which I definitely don't have time to do. And the theme was, there were two themes. One was real-time games. So games in which, as time passes in the world, that has an effect on the game, right? So like maybe you can only do things at certain times of day or like certain days on the calendar or something. And then the other theme was non-games. Like make a thing that's like a game, but it's not a game. I don't even know what that means, but that's the thing. It's like, it's open to like creative interpretation. And then, you know, I don't know of any game jams in San Antonio, so I think you should start one. Like this one in Austin, the guys from Venus Patrol just like, you know what, we should have a game jam. Other cool cities have that. Let's just have one. And I just had them, and like 700 people participated. Now, obviously, it was Adventure Time. Everyone loves Adventure Time. But all you really got to do is just put out a call, make a flyer, put it on Facebook. You could have a game jam, and then all the programmers and the artists will come. They'll come to your house, and you could be like, you guys, help me on my games. Let's start a game studio, right? You know, you can do that. Classes and tutorials, there's not nearly enough of this, but like I'm working with some people in my program at UT who are teaching, they're trying to get more kids and girls into programming through games. And so they use Game Salad, which I talked about earlier, is a no programming game creation engine, to teach game design in the hopes of them getting them into like game programming and game asset creation. And so, you know, so that's an exciting program. I think we should have, Joey, I think you should do a game class. You know, how about it? Let's do it.
New media narrative this spring.
There you go. There you go.
You can work in any medium, including games.
Yes. See, yes. I was planning to call Joey out and tell him to do a game class. Of course he said yes. Of course he said I'm already doing that in a way, right? Because that's Joey for you. So there's not really enough, I think, like local classes for just doing game development. But there's a lot of tutorials online, a million tutorials. For any tool, just go to YouTube and put in the name of the tool, and it'll be like more hours than you could ever possibly watch of like every single thing on that tool and how to use it. So that's the way to get started. And then there's meetups. Unfortunately, I only know about Austin meetups because I'm from Austin. Hopefully you guys have some cool meetups in San Antonio. Juegos Rancheros, that's the same people from the Adventure Time Game Jam. They have a thing every single month at the Highball in Austin, which is like a bar slash bowling alley slash karaoke place. They have a meetup, and it's just like all of the indie people from the whole community just like show up there. A lot of people from my favorite games would be there, and I like try not to fanboy on them. Like, I don't know if you guys have played Cannibalt. That guy was there one time, and I was like, Cannibalt. It's like a really good iOS game. Fantastic Arcade is another thing they do. So actually the Fantastic Arcade, it's like a week-long thing, and they actually took all the games from the Game Jam and put them on an arcade machine, and people were playing them like at the Highball. And you know, I think that's really cool. Like all of our games really, like a lot of people played them. I wasn't there, but I hope that they all really liked Lumpy Space Chess and thought it was awesome. And then I am setting up, if you guys are coming to South by, which you should come to South by, I'm going to be doing an indie developer designer meetup, and you guys can come to that. And I will introduce you to everyone in the indie game community, because I know them all, because I go to Juegos Rancheros. So, you know, that's a good way to do it. And then also, just do it. You don't even really need to do anything. Like, you just download this stuff, download some open game art stuff, and just like make a game, do it today, and put it on the internet, you know, and then like send me a link, and I'll play it, and I'll be like, rad game, you guys. I really like this game, you know. I'll definitely say that, because I like everything. So, right? And then I totally had this link party. I was going to show you guys some of my games, Lumpy Space Chess and the Lax Wizards and No Bears. And I was going to show you this BFXR tool because it's great. But I ended up using my iPad, and they're all like BFXRs in Flash, and none of these have touch controls. So I can't actually show you any of my games, but you know, whatever. They're online. So here's my contact info. Cool. So questions? Any questions?